We're back for another PMP Industry Insider Podcast. I'm Brett, the editor of the show, and another edition of Insiders Rewind is here. This time we're looking back to February and picking a short section that made an impact in those episodes from February. Each week, the show presented by our friends at Comarch, marketing services for the pest and lawn industry. You can visit comarch.com. And if you want industry-specific insurance, PestSure can help out. They provide insurance products tailor-made for the pest and lawn industry. Visit them online at pestsure.com. And Voice for Pest, they are the industry leader in designing and implementing unparalleled voice solutions for PCOs of any size across the country. Visit this website, voiceforpest.com/podcast. Also, a reminder, if you're interested in peer groups, you can join one. Information is available at pmpindustryinsider.com/peer groups. These are facilitated by David Billingsley. If you want a bit of a preview on how they work, you can listen to episode 136. New episodes drop every Thursday, and as we look back into February, we see episodes 212 through 215, and 212 will be our first stop. Dan and Donnie were discussing a 7-point plan to get ready for the season. This was with Patrick Quigley. He's the founder of Sales Training by Design, Inc. He made a fantastic point regarding understanding how other roles in the workplace go, and understanding those roles is important. Great story here, too.
You know, I'm a proponent of making sure that the folks inside the office know what the people on the outside do, and what the people on the outside know what a customer service rep goes through on a day-to-day basis. I remember a long time ago when I was a sales rep in Wildwood, New Jersey. And if you know anything about the beaches, the streets are parallel, perpendicular to the ocean. And I had a customer service rep, and she was not that great. She always told me that my commission was messed up because there was a conversion in the computer. And one day I got a lead, and it said 123 Pacific Avenue, and she has a Pacific problem. Well, she kind of mixed those two up. I went back.
She's dyslexic.
Yeah, dyslexic. I went back to the manager and was screaming at him, saying, "Man, look at this! This is crazy!" And she put Pacific Avenue and a specific. I figured it out, but how stupid is this? And he said, "Hey, listen, Pat. Tomorrow, I'm gonna. When you come in tomorrow, I'm gonna take your leads, and you're gonna sit in this office, and you're gonna sit behind her desk, and you're gonna watch what she does all day long." I said, "Okay, no problem." Well, I sat there for about an hour and a half, and I called him up and said, "Hey man, can I come back to get my leads? I can't do this position." And that's a really tough position, but knowing what everybody does in their responsibilities within a company is critically important to that teamwork. And the technicians shouldn't be moaning and groaning about the people inside the office that they spelled Smith SMYTH, and it should have been SMITH, or messed up an email address and not know what goes on in that office during the busy season. It's crazy. It's like those customer service reps are spinning plates on a stick, and there's 15 plates, and she's got to keep them spinning. And they do that all day long and all through that busy season. So the owners, all the way from the top to the bottom, should know what everybody does and what their responsibilities are, and how important that vehicle is for you to get through sometimes 2, 3, 4 really, really crazy months.
Again, that's from episode 212 with Patrick Quigley. The role swap exercise might be what you need for your business if you're dealing with anything like empathy issues, etc. We're going to move on to episode 213. Just Dan and Donna here on this episode. It was titled 3 Takeaways from Beyond Service. And there was an AI portion in this episode that's important to know. Donnie explained.
I will tell you, I would be investing my time in learning how to prompt. And what I mean by that is learning how to ask AI very specific questions, because, it's great that you can extract data. What's really important is that you can extract data in a way that gives you meaningful insights. And you have to be very specific when you ask, when you prompt AI to go and look for something, because while it's pretty good at reading between the lines, it's very specific. And so I think, at least for me, the thing I've taken away from this is I have to be very good about explaining what I'm looking for. But the fact that I don't have to wait on a report, I don't have to send this to IT and I hear something back later on. I don't have to figure it out. All I got to do is, get the data out and then start asking. And one thing I want to make sure that our listeners understand is, if you grab a spreadsheet of your customer data and you push it up to ChatGPT or really any other AI system to be that, just make sure you understand where that data is going. Because if you have the $20 a month version, that data is going to OpenAI's servers. Okay. And you need to be careful with that. There are versions that you can purchase where you can firewall that data off and it's just your data. And I think, who was the AI guy we brought in?
Andrew Latter.
Yeah, I think he talked about this in that episode, which is where you just really need to be careful about, the fact that it's going to be integrated in with PestPack is going to be fantastic, right? Because then you don't have to worry about issues like that. All I'm telling you is that if you start getting, frisky, so to speak, and you want to go out and, learn all this kind of stuff about your data and have AI do it, just understand where that data is going and understand the ramifications of that. Because once you push it out, now you're the one that did it. So I'll just leave it there.
And what are you insinuating is going to be done with that data?
Well, that's
something
a good
nefarious
question.
or?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. At the end of the day, if it's, once that data once it's gone, who knows where it goes, right? I mean, and could that data be used, for other, I don't want to say nefarious, but ultimately you're the one that pushed it out, and your customers kind of depend on you to safeguard that data. Now, I'm not making you into some vigilante, and I don't want to create a mountain out of a molehill. I'm just saying be aware of it. That's all.
Episode 213 there with Dan and Donnie, recapping Beyond Service in Dallas. 4 pest industry trends for 2025. That was the topic for episode 214. David Billingsley was the guest, and he was in to explain several items. And one of my favorites, was David explaining how a simple business like pest control can become overcomplicated over a period of time.
Numero 3, and Donnie, you alluded to it earlier around training. And so, for my clients and those in the peer groups, they know David is just about getting back to the basics, right? It doesn't completely align with you, Donnie, but an old boss of mine said, hey, we do 3 things in this business. We sell pest control, we service pest control, and we collect money for said services that we did, right? That's it. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden we take this very uncomplicated business, and over time we have a tendency to overcomplicate the crap out. All right. Mm-hmm. So for me, basic tech training, right? So that's something you alluded to earlier, Donnie, is important. But getting into the inside of things, one of your previous guests, Margaret Garcia from Grit PPO, mm-hmm. Love Margaret. She's a great friend. I think what she has done in the industry over the last couple of years, she has certainly kind of elevated herself to be like one of the experts, in her field. And so her and I have chatted a little bit about some CSR training, all right, about call flow, and then also talking about inside sales training, right? And I know my team used to hate on me a little bit because I was a sales guy when I started at American, and I have a tendency to gravitate towards the sales portion of the organization. But let's face it, our inside sales teams, for the most part, they're just really solid order takers. Mm-hmm. All right. And so what are we doing to ensure that just the basic blocking and tackling of when we answer the phone, how is your call flow going? What do you say at the beginning to be able to have call control is super important. Whether that's, so if you're asking a client that's calling because they're an existing customer that has an ant problem, if you say, hey, when would you like us to be out there? Obviously not good, right? Because they're going to tell you whenever it's convenient for them versus, hey, we're going to be out here Thursday or Friday, which would be better for you, right? So Margaret's done an amazing job of developing some training to be able to help with just the basic blocking and tackling of these things. So for me, just that basic training, I'm just seeing some trends around like, hey, we just are not doing things very good. And matter of fact, Dan, I tested this. I'm trying to take what you and Donnie have done with the peer groups, right? And it's if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because you guys really handed over the keys to a Ferrari for me of having a good foundation.
Margaret Garcia was mentioned in that cut. She joined the show back in March of last year, episode 170, and she was on to talk about mastering customer phone calls and kind of a say this, not that themed episode from 2024. Also, thanks to David Billingsley for coming back for another episode. It's always a pleasure. They're from episode 214. Final episode of February. It featured the Bug Man, Brian Olson. The theme here was a top 100 turnaround, and Brian laid out some changes that were made in his business, which landed him on the PCT top 100 list. So since my start working with this podcast, going to Pest World, hanging around with the experts in the industry, I have noticed a very common theme, and it's the importance of recurring revenue.
I came into the business when there was no recurring. It was real estate, termite inspections, and construction, and all one-time business. And so from the ground floor, we started the pest control division first. But we went through all the trials and errors of going into different segments and being very, very small and trying to do restaurants and trying to do industrial and trying to do homeowner and really we just had such a small company that we had to get focused. So we focused in on residential and multi-unit housing, and we do commercial too, but we don't do any food handling establishments. And when Dan did the assessment, he said top class companies are at 80%. And so that's just been an internal goal of mine. And so I kind of started looking at our segments of business and seeing how we could get there. And I remember in the podcast, Donnie, I said, yeah, we'll be at 80% in like a year or two. It's taken about 5 years to get there in reality.
You mean it took longer than you anticipated?
It took longer than I anticipated. But a very healthy, solid, with solid increases, price increases, with steadiness in our workforce, steadiness in the customers, low turnover with customers, increasing our referral rate. All of these things combined has created in me, I had to be the process. What it created was that we couldn't go out and be trying to sell the one-time stuff that's a lot of money. So then we'd have to change the sales approach, commissions, everything to reflect that we're about recurring. And now I think the team is a believer because we're a very, very steady business from month to month here in California. We really, the seasons are nothing close to what other seasons are in the United States. And our revenues are very consistent.
Episode 215 with the Bug Man, Brian Olson, bringing a close to the month of February and bringing a close to Insiders Rewind. Thanks for coming back. Again, I'm Brett, the editor of the PMP Industry Insider Podcast. All of the resources that you need are available at pmpindustryinsider.com. You'll have show notes, peer group information, much more. So thanks again, everyone. We'll see you next time.